We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Canelo Alvarez. Payday. It wasn't payday. I know that will not have a catchweight for a fight moving up to cruiserweight against none other than Makabu. Yo, what up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Listen, I don't know how you found my video, but somehow, some way you made it. Please help others find the content by throwing a like on the video. It's quick, it's free, it's painless, and reach one, teach one. It helps others find the content. So, as I reported previously on the channel, looks like Canelo Alvarez has his sights on some random African many people aren't familiar with, who lost to a former light heavyweight who moved up, Tony Bellew. Eddie Reynoso, he talked about the fight, and he responds to allegations that Canelo is cherry picking. This is what Eddie Reynoso had to say. Well, look, in the gym, we've done great work with Canelo his whole career. Saul is a fighter that we had him work with heavyweights and cruiserweights, and he has looked great. This is why he's deciding to move up. No champion is an easy opponent. And this was him being asked about Makabu being the easiest cruiserweight champion. It says to be a world champion, you got to go through a lot. The bad thing right now in boxing, the challengers are the good fighters and the champions not so much. So that's a little confusing. But to a world champion, you have to be good and then some. All champions deserve respect because to be a world champion is not easy, right? He also talks more about this fight. He says, I know fights are different, but we have confidence. We've analyzed Makabu, and we're confident with the great physical preparation Canelo can beat him. For about a year, we've been looking at potential future rivals, and we've been keeping an eye on him. First, we had to finish our project at 168. We did that. So now let's see how the negotiations work out with Makabu's people. But we've been visualizing the fight, and honestly, we want to take this risk. Yeah, Canelo's ready. We have the confidence in his strength and his skills, and we have a lot of opportunities to win. And that's why we asked for this fight. No, Canelo has confidence in himself and what we are doing. We all have confidence in the world, and we have a talented fighter who's strong, and with the package, we can get the title, right? Our doors are open to whoever, whether it be Al Heyman with PBC, Eddie Hearn, Bob Arum in Top Rank. We can work with anyone, and we will see who we can work with. No, I think the fight has to happen in the US, and to find out a date, there is an important one. And this was him being asked if Canelo Makabu could take place in Africa, and he says it will be in the United States. Makabu is a strong fighter and can take punishment well. He can hit, come forward, but can move side to side. He has abilities, but his biggest is he has a lot of power and he can take a punch. And he says it's a challenge because of the weight, but we have confidence that we're going to put in the best work and we can win this fight. They also says, no, we will be there, and we have a margin to be at cruiserweight. So this is not at like Bridger weight or anything else. He said the weight that Canelo is at 2 months before a fight is a weight that he can adapt to cruiserweight. So we got to train hard. We have to prepare 83 to 85 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds. Maybe Canelo trains at 180 pounds. So he says, no, there won't be a catch weight, but we will see what we negotiate. So really, this just sounds like a whole bunch of nothing. And he's saying there's not a catch weight as of doing the interview, but who knows? That could change. There could be rehydration clauses and stuff. that Canelo has put in his past fights. Now, initially when I was hearing about this interview and listening, I don't really have much interest in the Makabu Air fight with Canelo. I think it's BS. I think Canelo is cherry picking and he's trying to pick on the weakest link. And it's ironic because Eddie Reynoso is saying politically correct answers, saying, hey, if you're a champion, it takes something to get there and to be a champion, which is a load of BS based on the fact that, yeah, again, you have to respect a champion and all that. It sounds good, but we also live in modern times where this is not the 60s and 70s where if you're Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston, Ernie Shavers, you were really thorough and you were to be respected as one of the greats, right? We don't live in the modern age of boxing is not like that. We have the modern age of boxing. We have YouTubers and influencers who are actually boxing. And like even Jake Paul, right? Nothing against the guy, but Jake Paul, if you look at his fights, when he's had his fights, somehow, some way, he has a WBC belt, like during the fight. So this is the time frame and the space and the era that we are in with modern boxing, where somehow, some way, fights like Canelo versus Julio Cesar Chavez at a catchweight of 164.5, a WBC belt props up. You know what I mean? And we just got to deal with it as fans. So Eddie Reynoso is playing semantics, saying, he's saying like more of a traditionalist, old fashioned, if you're a champion, you had to work hard and stuff like that. But it's not that. At the end of the day, there's a lot of politics that enable guys to become a champion. And if you look at Canelo's actual run at 168, this is what Canelo did. And this is why Canelo chose this division out of all the divisions that he's been in. For example, and I know a lot of the Canelo man fans and the Chupapi Muñeño, Canelo diehard radicals, they're going to get mad at what I'm saying, but I promise you, you can't disprove me. For example, if you look at previous divisions that Canelo has been in, 154 and 160, the easiest division in terms of champions, like the easiest path would be to fight the champions that he did to become undisputed at 168, because the boogeyman of the 168 division, David Benavidez, he had mishaps and he lost his title on the scale during the pandemic. So that would have been a difficult style, but Canelo was able to tiptoe around David Benavidez, and that's why he's not trying to fight David Benavidez, and he's instead trying to fight a random African, right? So for example, you look at 154. To have been undisputed at 154, that means Canelo would have had to beat the likes of Demetrius Andrade. He would have to beat the likes of Jermell Charlo, depending on what era he was, what years, he would have to possibly beat J-Rock or Swift, Jared Hurd, right? These are all recent champions. Jason Rosario. These are the guys that he would have had to beat, depending on what year, if he stayed at 154, right? Same thing with 160. At 160, if he wanted to be undisputed, he would have to beat like either a Gennady Golovkin. Again, he would have to beat a Sergey Derevyanchenko maybe. He'd have to beat Jermell Charlo. He'd have to beat Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. He chose not to be undisputed in those particular divisions. And in true Canelo fashion, he wanted to be undisputed in a division where, like I'm saying, there's more than meets the eye. You look at Billy Joe Saunders, he was a champion. That is indeed true. But if you look deeper into the situation and you actually know boxing, you'll know Billy Joe Saunders, his best career wins were at 160 pounds, not 168 pounds. And then if you look deeper than that, you look at what Billy Joe Saunders accomplished at 168, and it's really nothing. He really didn't fight anybody that you could even name. He never fought a guy like Demetrius Andrade. He never rescheduled that bout. He didn't fight Caleb Smith. Danny Jacobs had called him out. He didn't fight Danny Jacobs. He didn't even fight a Gabe Rosado level person. And in fact, he fought Martin Murray, who was a career 160 pounder, and Gabe Rosado really beat Martin Murray and was robbed in that fight. So you guys got to understand this and know boxing. So Canelo and his team, they're strategists, they're vultures, they're opportunists, and they know what they're doing in that regard in cherry picking Canelo's fights. Because Eddie Reynoso is saying that MacBook is strong and his best attributes are he's strong and he can take a punch. But ironically enough, Floyd Mayweather just did a recent interview before this interview, and he says, oh, I know the guy. He was like, the African, he was in the Mayweather gym, and the Mayweather guys, they were getting the best of him. They was kicking his butt in the gym. So I see, but I want to the fight I want to see is Canelo and David Benavidez. This is what Floyd said, right? So Eddie Reynoso, I don't know that MacBook's I've never heard any stories of MacBook being in Eddie Reynoso's gym in San Diego, but we know that MacBook trained in Vegas at the Floyd Mayweather gym, and he says, so TBE, someone who beat Canelo, is saying that MacBook was getting beat up in the gym and he's limited, but Eddie Reynoso is saying that the guy could take a punch. Now, let's say you don't want to believe Floyd Money Mayweather for whatever reason. Maybe you're biased or you don't like him. Another indication is that Floyd is telling the truth is Eddie Reynoso, who is being accused of him and his fighter cherry picking the MacBook dude. If you look at the guy's own record, he has 2 losses and both losses are by knockout. So even if we didn't hear Floyd Mayweather give his factual testimony based on what he's seen in his own gym, his record shows you that. And the guy he's about to rematch on the Don King card in Cleveland hurt him too and almost knocked him out in the early rounds. So to be honest, whether the fight's not at a catch weight or if it is, it's still a fight that it doesn't sound appealing. Now, the other thing one has to question is how come Canelo is willing to fight this random African with 2 losses and 2 knockout losses at that. So both of his losses are by knockout, and he doesn't need any kind of potential catch weight or rehydration clause, or at least at the moment, because you never know what he'll try to sneak in and put like in an NDA so nobody could reveal it if you get weight drained or you get claused to death, right? But they're making it sound like he's willing to fight this guy at a catch weight. So even if that's the case, if they're willing to fight this guy with no catch weight. So even if that's the case and they're willing to fight MacBook Air with no catch weight, then it still makes Canelo and his team look suspect, because why would you put rehydration clauses on guys like Danny Jacobs, guys like Chavez, guys like Rocky Fielding, guys like Kovalev? So guys who are more known for being better fighters or better names that were bigger than you put all these clauses on them. But now you know this guy, MacBook, is so limited that you're not tripping about the weight and you're willing to fight him with no catch weight, and it's all the way at the cruiserweight division, you know? So doesn't really sound appetizing to me, and he's saying the fight is going to be in the US. I can't wait to see more information with the fight, because I really don't see it following the Caleb Plant fight in the same fashion. This is just a fight that it lacks a storyline, it lacks real grit, and people know why Canelo's doing it. Drop your thoughts in the comment section, and I'm out.